It's about I got to say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. It's picked up by Michigan State. Jalen Watts Jackson, and he scores on the last play of the game.
Ground ball, right side. Cabrera will cut it off. Galarraga covers. He's out. No, he's safe.
Phoenix has the foul, and a pinnacle ball throws it down.
DeBrincat gets it back to Goss's Baron across now Kane.
Save Raymond. They score! Raymond!
Big Bob got to the throw and it's
Oh no! This is BS Sports.
And away we go. Welcome one, welcome all on a beautiful Tuesday. I mean, it's like 75 degrees outside. It's been sunny. I had to work today, but I was working from home, so I got to see the beauty outside. It was great. It was great. I walked outside. I was like, it's summertime. It's July, even though it's actually still April. But it's beautiful, and I'm looking forward to it staying this way. No, it won't. Won't do that. But welcome to the show. We got a lot to talk about. Obviously, headliner is all about the Pistons. They got a big game tonight, season on the line. Got to win in Madison Square Garden. We'll talk about the couple of home games that, well, frankly, I think they basically laid an egg. But we'll talk about it. We'll break it down in just a bit. We also got the NFL draft, and a lot of the storylines come out of that, as well as just talking about the Lions draft. And I got to ramble and rant a little bit about some of this stuff about Brad Holmes and the edge rushers and all of this, because it seems the discussion has emerged, and I'd like to offer some commentary on that. And we got to break down a little bit of the NHL playoffs. Not going to spend too much time on it, but I'm sure we're going to have a lot to talk about with playoffs in the NBA and the draft and everything. So that is where we're going to focus our attention. However, I know this is a sports show, but I would be remiss if I did not speak up on this, the debate of our times, the issue of the day, the issue of the year of our Lord 2025. Who would win 100 men versus one gorilla? And I got to tell you, I've pondered this question for many millennia, many moons have I pondered this question. And the answer that I don't think I've ever heard anybody give, it depends upon the men. Like, if we got 100 me, that's not gonna go well. I'm 5'7". I'm 5'7", like 135 pounds. Don't put me with a gorilla. It doesn't matter how many there are of me. It's not gonna work. Gorilla's just gonna barrel through all of us. It's not gonna work. However, if you put 100 Andre the Giants, or 100 Penei Sewells, or 100 Myles Garretts, or 100 Giannis Antetokounmpos, or LeBron James, or any of these super, jacked, pure muscle, 0% body fat athlete. Like, if we get all of, like, the biggest, strongest NFL players, like, we get, like, Aleem McNeil, we get, Myles Garrett, we get, Fred Warner in his prime, we get Lawrence Taylor in his prime. You put 100 of those kinds of human beings, the gorilla's not living. And there are some people who are just like, oh, the gorilla destroys it doesn't matter. It's like, there's got to be some point, right? There's got to be some point where the human beings would be able to beat the gorilla. So there's my answer. Yes, but it depends upon the men. If it's 100 random citizens, yeah, the gorilla's destroying us. Not going good. The gorilla would murder 100 random people. Like, if we got 100 people from where I'm living, Okemos, Michigan. If we got 100 people from Okemos, Michigan, they would all get destroyed. They're every single one. One gorilla could run the city of Okemos. Is it a city? I don't know what it is. It's a area. I guess it's a city. Anyway, it's enough about gorillas and men and things. All right, let's just jump into it because it is the topic of discussion, and it's my team. I'm rocked out in the Pistons gear because they got the game tonight, Game 5, in New York. All right, so here's what I want to say. First game that we had in LCA in Detroit, we're gonna throw that one in the garbage. All right, we're just gonna take that one and we're gonna we're gonna take it. See, we got it. We're gonna put it over here. And we're gonna just let it go. All right, we're gonna let it go. I'm fine. You're gonna have one of those games where your defense just can't get a stop. You just can't get on top. For whatever reason, the game wasn't just going your way. That's fine. You lose that game. I'll be upset about it, but it's fine. Game 4, however, that one I have a much harder time getting loose off of my just memory and off of that is a game you gotta win. It was low scoring. They won the last time they held the Knicks under 100 points. In fact, they won the last time they held the Knicks to 94 points. And you had opportunities to win that game. You're up double digits going into the fourth quarter. You're up late in the fourth quarter, less than 5 minutes to go. You have a multi-possession lead. You have to close out games. And you know what? Maybe it is just a matter of this team is just not experienced enough. This team doesn't have the talent that New York does. You know, all things considered, Karl Anthony Towns has been tremendous for the Knicks this series, especially in those 2 games after he completely dropped the ball. In game 2. He's been tremendous, especially from the long ball. It's like every time he takes a 3, I'm like, uh-oh, because he's going to make it. I've never seen a big man make threes like Karl Anthony Towns. But that ending of the game is really the discussion. And here's my thing. I have 2 minds on this. All right. My fan mind and my, homer mind is the Pistons got screwed. The NBA hates Detroit. They want New York to win because it'll bring in more money. It'll bring in more views. So they got to screw Detroit. Even though it was obviously a foul, Tim Hardaway Jr. would have gone to the line. He would have sunk at least 2 of those free throws because he would have had 3. He would have sunk at least 2 of them. Heck, he would have sunk at least 1 of them, and they could have gone to overtime at the very least. And then who knows what happens from there. But if he would have made all 3, he would have put the team up. They would have won the game. They only had like 4 seconds left. I don't know if the Knicks had a timeout to that point. All of that. I feel that. I wish it, and it's just a brutal way to lose a game when you have the opportunity, you have the basketball with a chance to take the lead. All you need is a basket, and you just get screwed by the referees. Something completely out of your control. On the other hand, Cade Cunningham has to make that shot. Full stop, end of story. That's it. You have to make that shot. You are one of the best players in the NBA right now. You are an all-NBA caliber guard. You're the best player on the floor for both teams. You can't just miss that shot. If you want to be a killer, you want to be a face of this league, you got to make those kinds of shots. Now, I understand. He had a great game. I'm not disparaging the game that he had, and he's had a pretty great series as well, almost. He's 1 rebound and 1 assist a game away from a triple-double in the series. But, man, you can't miss those shots. And, again, you had a lead going into the fourth quarter. You had a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter. You blew it again. This is not the first time. This is now the 3rd, or maybe the 4th. This is now the 3rd, at least the 2nd, if you don't want to count that first game at home, which you ended up losing just by 2 points, albeit the game was not as close as the final score indicated. But I digress. You could have won game 1 in New York. You give up the 21-0 run. You win game 2 in New York by the skin of your own teeth. You almost blew that one too. You really don't ever take control of game 3 at your house. You were in control, in the driver's seat, chance to drive the knife in and twist it on New York to split the homestand and go back to Madison Square Garden 2-2. And instead, we're talking about needing to bring this series to 7 games just to have a shot to get to the second round. And I got to tell you, I was pretty darn bummed about the result of that game. I I am the one guy who says, you know what, I'm happy for the ride. This team has been fantastic. I think that they are fully capable of winning a first round, but then from there, it's icing on the cake. But either way, you end the playoff drought, you get that win. Unfortunately, you don't get it at home, so you still have the home playoff drought. But, I mean, technically speaking, you do still have a chance to get another home game if you can win tonight. But, man, like, this is a series where you really, if you just could have won it. And I know it's not over technically. Maybe by the time next week, the Pistons will have, somehow made a miraculous comeback, and we'll be talking about the Pistons in the second round. I got to tell you, though, it doesn't look like it. It's hard to come back 3-1. It's especially hard to come back 3-1 when it's basically the Cade Cunningham show featuring maybe Malik Beasley or maybe Tim Hardaway Jr. Cade just doesn't have enough scores around him. And that brings me to the next point, which is, what are you going to do in this offseason? Because you got to get somebody. And I'm not saying you got to, sell the farm to go get Kevin Durant or go get Devin Booker or any of these. I understand that, the asking price for some of these players is going to be pretty astronomical and to the point where I'm not sure that I'm ready. But you certainly should be making upgrades. As much as I liked Tim Hardaway Jr., as much as I even liked Malik Beasley, their performances in the playoffs tell me why the teams that had them before kind of let them go. Because while they are good players, fine players even, when push comes to shove, when you need a shot maker in those tough spots, they just aren't that guy. And it sucks. Again, I really like those players. I think they were really solid moves by Langdon. But he's going to have to make more solid moves. He's going to have to elevate. Now you've shown, okay, Detroit is a destination. You got a superstar in Cade, and you got a lot of young players like Ron Holland, Asar Thompson, Jalen Duren, a lot of guys that can grow and develop to being that next, maybe not superstar, but that next kind of upper tier player. Obviously, not all of them are going to hit. We'll see what ends up happening. One other thing I want to point out to the people who are not, or to the people who are far too invested in they got to go out and get a superstar. They got to go out and get Devin Booker. They got to go out and get Kevin Durant or any of these guys. Allow me to make a hypothetical. What if the difference in this game where you're down 1 point, instead of all of it being on Cade, you have another player who, through this season when he played, it's pretty darn clutch. Had a couple of game-winning shots. That player's Jaden Ivey. Of course, coming back from a leg injury, for a guy who is hyper-athletic and fast as he is, not exactly ideal. However, perhaps the addition that you will have is more so in the addition of someone that you already had and you don't have to spend picks, players, etc. getting it. I'm not saying that Jaden Ivey is Derrick Rose. I'm not saying that. Okay. I would love it if he was, but I'm not saying that. However, if Jaden Ivey is as good as he was going into this season, where he was, I mean, you go ahead and look up his numbers. I'm not going to do that right now, but you can look up his numbers. He was doing really well, and he hit some really clutch shots, and I got the feeling that this guy had ice water in his veins, especially when Cade was struggling in those tough spots. He was elevated. So maybe your 1-2 punch is your Cade and your Ivy. And it reminds me a little bit of, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum out in Boston. So, fine. You want to try and go get Devin Booker? Cool. You want to go out and try to get, pick a player. I don't know. Lauri Markkanen. Fine. Not opposed to it in principle. But I would caution not to break up what you got here too much, because I look at a team like Milwaukee, who I know they already won a championship, but after they won that championship, they started, okay, we don't really need PJ Tucker. Okay, we don't really need Drew Holiday. Okay, we don't really need Chris Middleton. And now they're down 3-1 in a series against the Pacers, albeit they're winning this Game 5 right now. Either way, the Pistons, regardless of what ends up happening tonight or the rest of the series, they've had a successful year. And I'm incredibly happy about the future of this team. I love seeing that Detroit basketball is back and fun and entertaining. But man, I am disappointed. However, it does give me hope. This team, with a couple of nice tweaks, a couple of additions, could be the next team in the East to really take a stand, especially if Cade continues to grow into that MVP candidate that he is certainly capable of being. So meanwhile, as we're talking about this Bucks Pacers, just back from the half. Bucks are up, I believe, 6 points. I think it was 47-41. They got this game on NBA TV. So this is kind of why I didn't want to. Well, in a certain sense, I wanted New York because then I didn't have to deal with having NBA TV games. Poor Milwaukee and Indiana. Like two small market teams. Yeah, throw them on NBA TV. Who's gonna watch these games? Me. I'll watch those games. So let's actually probably just jump right into the playoffs here. So we do have a couple of eliminations in both conferences, one from each. The Oklahoma City Thunder sweep the 8th seed Memphis Grizzlies, and the Cleveland Cavaliers sweep the 8th seed Miami Heat. Now, I'm not going to break down those series because, frankly, it was just a massacre. Oklahoma City was completely overclassed over the Grizzlies, and the Heat are just a corpse of a team. You get rid of Jimmy Butler, that team. I mean, Bam Adebayo is your best player, and I like Bam Adebayo as much as the next guy, but he's not gonna move the needle. Not. Especially not against a team like Cleveland, which is just a powerhouse. Both those teams sweep. And my whole point is this. Why are we even doing this plan? I mean, as far as the play-in teams, I see one team that was in the play-in that's actually making some noise. That's the Warriors. They're up 3-1 over the 2 seed. That's the only one. Like, the Magic are down 3-1 to Boston, and they probably should have been eliminated, to be perfectly honest. If they're not, they're going to be eliminated probably relatively soon. And like, the Heat and the Grizzlies both got destroyed. What is the point of this plan? If the point is just to have more basketball games, okay, I get it. But if the point is to, allow for those straggler teams to, make their case and be able to, elevate into the postseason, if you were good enough in the regular season to get to the 8th seed, then that's that. That's just how it should work. Maybe we even get rid of this, business of, a 7 and an 8 seed and just say, the 1 seed gets a bye, essentially. I don't know. I'm not saying that that's necessarily a solution, but it's just the play-in outside of that one Miami Heat run to the finals, outside of that one time, the play-in has not really been worth it for the most part. So there's that. Clippers and Nuggets, that's a series that continues to go back and forth. That game, game 5, is tonight at 10 o'clock, so won't be watching that. Here's the thing. I understand they're West Coast teams. I understand. That is one of the most intriguing first-round series. And none of the games are really... I got to watch game 1. That was the only game I got to watch from this series. Not because it's not available. I have NBA TV. But because it's on at 10 o'clock at night. I understand. Again, Los Angeles, Denver. Those are West Coast Mountain Time time zone. Understood. Can we do 9 o'clock? Can we do 8:45? Can I at least be able to see a little bit of these teams go at it? A little bit? No, guess not. And speaking of Los Angeles, I hate to say I told you so. I just hate it. I don't like to brag. But I kind of told you so about JJ Redick. I mean, come on. Like, it gets to crunch time. We're finally in meaningful basketball. And now he's down 3-1 to a 6-seeded Wolves team who basically kind of fumbled their way into the playoffs. They were outside of the ball. I think they were in the play-in for a decent amount of time. They stumble in, and JJ Redick put on a masterclass of a game 4. So you look at the box score and you say, wow, this was a close game. And then you look at some of the stats of minutes per in the game. And you're like, question. How many minutes are there in a basketball game total? Let's see. I believe there's 12 12-minute quarters, 4 quarters. So 12 times 4 is 48. So then one might ask oneself, why is LeBron then playing 46 minutes? And furthermore, why is Luka Doncic playing 45 minutes? And even more, why is Jared Vanderbilt playing just 6 minutes? Now, one might say, well, the bench of the Lakers sucks. This is true. However, you can't put your guys out there in a down 2-1 in a series. You can't put them out there the whole half, JJ. This isn't fantasy basketball. This isn't ESPN, which is probably more your speed, but you can't do that. You can't, Luka Doncic is a fine player. He's going to get you points no matter how long he plays. But you put him out there for 45 minutes, he's going to be gassed the next game. This to me is the difference in a coach who actually has some strategic experience, i.e., coaching Minnesota's end, or really any of the other coaches in the playoffs right now, including Doc Rivers for that matter. Albeit his strategy is usually not very good. This guy is just completely out of his realm. And don't give me he's doing a lot better than Darvin Ham. Yeah, well, Darvin Ham didn't have the benefit of Luka Doncic getting handed to him on a silver platter. Let me remind you that the Lakers were not really doing all that well until they got Luka Doncic, when then miraculously they just started winning. What a concept. They just revived their season completely, jumped into the 3 seed, and now they're just doing the exact same thing that they did with Darvin Ham, which is losing in the playoffs, because as soon as they play some actual competition where they need a little bit of depth, where they can't just have LeBron, or in this case now Luka, just carry them to success, they lose. And it's funny. I'm sure they'll probably win a game here or two, or maybe even make things interesting, and it'll take the series to 7. But I don't believe they're going to win this series, because this team is a farce. It's a paper tiger. It's big names and big media presence, but it's not listen, all right? Your top 2 players are LeBron James and Luka Doncic. 2 elite superstar top players in the league. Then the next best player is Austin Reeves. If your third best player is Austin Reeves, you're not winning nothing. All right? And I'm tired of all this glazing of Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves is a certified pedestrian player if it weren't for LeBron James glazing him and for that one playoff run where he was pretty good. You look at his other playoff stats, they're pretty pedestrian. I mean, the guy played 35 minutes and had 17 points. Can't have it. We can't have it. All right? Not exactly what you want to expect from a guy who's playing over half of the game. 3/4 of the game this guy was playing, and he had 17 points. 17 points. So much for the hillbilly Kobe or whatever they were calling him. Either way, this Lakers team is a farce, and I'm enjoying watching them lose. And as much as I don't think the Wolves are going to go much of anywhere, they are at least fun. Anthony Edwards is fun. Julius Randle is fun. I like fun. Sue me. I like fun. Rudy Gobert is fun. Although everybody hates him. I don't really know why. Is Rudy just like a jerk? Or is he just like a really nice guy? And so people don't like... I don't know. People don't like him. I don't mind him. but everybody hates him. Anyway, so just talk about the Bucks. Right now they're losing 52-51. So they blew a double-digit lead, and Doc Rivers is just somebody please check on Seth. If you see Seth, please just make sure he's all right. He hasn't seen the second round of the playoffs in almost as long as me. Moving along though, Magic down 3-1. We already alluded to that. They gave him that game 4, there was a little point where I was like, okay, maybe they're no. Paolo Banchero is a certified stud though. He's a very good player. Unfortunately for the Magic, I don't know, injuries, things just don't seem to go their way. And I hate to just pull out a generic narrative, but it just feels like this is just kind of who the Magic as a franchise have been. It's like when they had Dwight Howard, it was, things just don't work out. They don't make the right moves in the offseason. They don't bring in the right guys. They don't have the right coach, whatever the case may be. When they had Shaq, and they were pretty good, and they almost got it, and then it's like they show you a flash, and you're like, okay, this is the time. Here come the Orlando Magic. They're gonna finally take that leap. They're gonna bring Orlando a championship, and I love the Magic as a team, and as they're just a fun team, and they can't get out of their own way sometimes. And I know it's a bad matchup, 7-2 against the reigning champs. I understand. It's not ideal, but it is what it is. If you're reigning or if you're a team on the rise, you kind of have to start winning tough series. You gotta start upsetting teams. You gotta start surprising guys like me. So either way, sucks for them, I suppose. And I think we also gotta talk about this. Because I did allude to it. The Warriors are doing the thing to the Rockets that I kind of suspected they would do. Like, I talked about this going in as far as teams in the play-in that could make noise. I said the Warriors. I also said the Grizzlies, but we're not going to talk about that. But I said the Warriors is one of the teams, especially in the West, to make noise. And look, they're right there. Tomorrow night they play in Houston. It's not going to be an easy win necessarily, because now Houston, back against the wall. But frankly, Houston's just kind of been outplayed. I mean, they've been assisted. I don't know how to say that. They've been outscored, obviously. They have out-rebounded them, but I mean, look, I don't mean to be mean, but if you're leading scorer, if you're leading players, Alperen Sengun, that's not good. All right, that's not good. All right. I don't mean to be mean, but this Rockets team, maybe it's just, again, it's similar to the Pistons, and they're kind of on that same timeline, and they also have a Thompson twin. So maybe it's just guys like Amen Thompson, guys like Jalen Green or Jabari Smith or Fred VanVleet. Maybe they just kind of Fred VanVleet's a veteran, but some of these younger guys, maybe they just kind of need to learn how to win. I didn't know Steven Adams was on this team. I just saw that, and I am actually really shocked by that. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Like the Steven, it's not a different Steven Adams, is it? Yeah, no, it's the Steven Adams. Huh. He's not very good anymore, but I didn't know he was on the team. I thought he was still on the Grizzlies. Wow. Shows you how much I know. But yeah, no, they're just. It's disappointing, I guess, because you want to see newer teams. You don't want to have to continue to see the Golden State Warriors make playoff runs. But, that's the nature of the NBA, especially in modern times, is that the stars and the superstars, they run the league. And as much as people might not like it, Steph Curry's still a superstar. He's still one of the top players in the league. Jalen Green, he's a good player. He's not a great player. And we're seeing it these playoffs. I mean, he's averaging just 15 points a game. It's funny. There was debate, I remember, about whether or not the Pistons should take Jalen Green or Cade. And boy, is that debate aged like milk. Because as much as Jalen Green, again, good player, not a great player. In my opinion, and maybe this is biased, in my opinion, he's not a superstar. And I don't know that he ever will be. I don't really trust G League guys to begin with. And that includes Ron Holland and Asar Thompson. I know they're not, whatever. Non-college players, I generally speaking do not trust. I'll trust European players before I trust G League, like non-American, non-college players. But either way, it's tough because I do think that the Rockets were a bit of a surprise. I kind of wanted to, watch a team I hadn't really had the chance to watch. And I guess this is why I haven't had much of a chance to watch, because they're not that good. Not that good. And I guess that's it. I guess that's it for the NBA playoffs. It's been interesting, for sure. Oh, shoot. I realize it is past 7:30, so we should have... Yeah, we do have the multi-view here with the Pistons game. Let's take a look. I don't even know if it started yet. What are those jerseys that the Knicks are wearing? What is that? It's like 3D glasses. Final countdown time? That's right. Although in New York. Oh, the Pistons wearing their road blue jerseys. Those are the best jerseys. We all know it. Everybody knows it. Many people are saying it. A lot of people are saying it. Yeah, there's the starting lineups. But I guess that's it for the NBA playoffs. I'll kind of be keeping my eyes here on the game. And we'll probably just, honestly, I might stay live for at least a little bit after, but probably not, because I do want to edit out some of these clips. Yeah, if you can get the win here in MSG, Detroit fan, that would I think spark a little bit of life, because then you get a home game 6. You've played some close home games. If you can, it's not gonna be easy, but you know what? Because I think it's more interesting, and because there's actual Detroit related things, let's jump into the NFL draft. So I'm gonna start with the line. Shut up, video. I'm gonna start with the Lions, just because obviously my team. That's what I want to talk about. It's my show. It is my turn. Okay. So the Lions, in case you missed it, they decided their draft strategy was going to be drafting big human beings. That was their draft strategy, primarily. You draft Tyreek Williams in the first round, defensive tackle out of Ohio State. Tate Ratledge, guard out of Georgia. Detroit, by the way, acquired that pick in... it's like a weird... So it was LA's pick, then it was Carolina's pick, then it got to us somehow. Whatever. In the third round, we take wide receiver Isaac Tesla. I don't know how to pronounce that. Then, in the fifth round, they take guard Miles Frazier. In the sixth round, they take edge Ahmed Hassanin. In the seventh round, they take safety Dan Jackson out of Georgia. Oh, and Ahmed was out of Boise State. And then finally, in round 7, they take wide receiver Dominic Lovett out of Georgia. So, what am I to say about this draft? Well, I am going to say this. I will never, and I hope people hold me to this, I will never get critical or yell or scream or angry at a team who takes trenches in the first or second round. Just not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. Like, in principle. Why? Because that is where you win and lose football games. And in terms of value, you taking a defensive tackle in the first round, that is safe. You don't have to worry about stupid nonsense because you took a receiver and it didn't work out. You don't have to worry about, obviously we're not in the position to be drafting a quarterback. You don't have to worry about, some other skill position player not working out. When you take trenches, it tells me this. Either you're going to get a certified stud who just works his way into the starting lineup and is just there all for you, or alternatively, you got depth pieces. Because you know who is always, well, maybe not always, but almost always going to end up, beat up after a game or, dealing with injury during a game is your defensive line and your offensive line. So you bring in a Tyreek Williams. Do I know how good Tyreek Williams is? No. You want to know why? I didn't watch any Ohio State. All right? I don't watch Ohio State football. All right. The only time I watched Ohio State football was when they played Michigan State. And that was not fun. I don't want to go through that again. All right. And this is the other thing. For all the people who are so crazy, oh my gosh, how could they take a wide receiver? How could they take this T-Slaw guy? I can't believe. Here's my rule. You don't get to complain about a draft pick in the 3rd round and beyond, assuming you have never watched the player. If you watch the player and you said, you know what, to be perfectly frank, I don't think he's really that good. Like if you're a hardcore Arkansas fan, you say, you know what, I just don't think T-Slaw's that good. Okay, fine. I can't argue with that because I never watched it. But if you're going to sit here and be like, why do we take a wide receiver? We already have J-Mo. We already have Amon-Ra. Like, as if we didn't learn anything from last year. This would be like if people got mad last year if we took if we took an edge or a defense, a nose tackle even. And they were like, what are we doing taking a defensive line or an edge? We already have Hutchinson. We already have McNeil. Guys get hurt. This is a surprise to many people. Guys get hurt. They got to miss snaps. What if those snaps are 3rd down and 8 and you need a big play? What if those snaps are, game on the line? You got to drive down the field, get into field goal range. So you need a guy from your depth because Jamison Williams is out. Or Khalif Raymond goes down with an injury because he's not getting any younger. Tim Patrick's not getting any younger. You want to say, okay, it's not an immediate need. Sure. But you don't draft for immediate need. This is the thing that blows the mind, I think, of some of these people, especially online, especially in sports talk, where they'll talk about, well, why are they not drafted for need? Because that's not what the draft is for. You're not, first of all, if you think that a 24-year-old is going to fill your quote-unquote need for a particular position, you're already in a bad spot. All right, like when the Lions took Aiden Hutchinson, right? The team was not very good. So it wasn't like the difference between the team being good and the team not being good was us taking Aiden Hutchinson. All right? Like, we needed more than just Aiden Hutchinson. He's now entering his prime, entering his late 20s, and now he's got a corral of guys on both the secondary end with guys like Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw and now DJ Reed. And then on the other end with the defensive line, he's got DJ Reader, he's got McNeil, he's now got Tyleek Williams, he's got Pascal, Onwuzurike, potentially even Zadarius Smith, depending on where he ends up. The point is, you're not taking guys for immediate need. And don't give me this, oh, well, the Eagles have a million edge rushers. Really? Do they? They have a lot of guys on the defensive line. But you know what they do? They draft those guys, just like we have drafted those guys. Like, you can't just sit here and say, well, the guys that we have now are good enough. You don't know what that's going to be. What if, and God willing, this doesn't happen. What if next year Amon-Ra St. Brown tears his ACL week 1 and now you're down your wide receiver 1? Are we going to be saying, well, we shouldn't have taken Isaac T-Slaw because Amon-Ra is going to get all of his catches? I don't know if Amon-Ra is going to play every single minute of every single game. I hope he will. I'm not planning that he won't. But you don't, again, it's not like we went out and traded for DK Metcalf, all right? We're not using, player assets or draft picks to go out and get a aging star like DK Metcalf. We're drafting for value. Isaac T-Slaw costs about $1.50 for this team. So why people are getting so upset? Like, again, if you wanted edge, fine. We did draft an edge rusher out of Boise State. He's 6th-round pick. I know those aren't high hit rates, but if you wanted edge, that was the edge they liked. What do you want me to say? Like, what edge would you want? What is the edge that you're like, yeah, that was the one. That was the edge we should have gotten. Like, and you know what? You brought this up because I did want to point this out because there were some of these people, especially on 97.1. I don't want to disrespect. I think it's one of the great sports talk radio stations in the area. As someone who doesn't live in Detroit anymore, it's one of the great. But Brad Holmes on this interview talked about, he's confused as to why people are asking about edge. And frankly, I'm confused too. Because whom are you asking about? Don't just say, well, we need that position. Okay, we have that position. We have Josh Pascal. We have Levi Onwuzurike. We had Zadarius Smith. We have Marcus Davenport. Now he goes, oh, I don't want those guys. Okay, who do you want? Do you want Myles Garrett? He's not available. Do you want Max Crosby? He's not available. Do you want Trey Hendrickson? Newsflash, he will not be available. All of the guys that you want are not actually there. Now you want to say, well, why didn't he draft this guy? I don't know. He didn't like him. Because maybe he just doesn't want him. He did draft an edge rusher that he does want. It's like, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. If he drafts an edge rusher like he did in the 6th round, it doesn't count. But if he drafts one that happened to be in the 1st round, who may or may not end up being good anyway, to me, it's like you can't just sit here and say, well, in principle, we need to draft an edge rusher. Why? Why do we in principle have to draft an edge rusher any more than we have to draft interior D-line? Or any more than we have to draft offensive line? It's one of those things where fans will get just glued to, especially mock drafts or positions that it becomes their little horse that they want to, like their little hobby horse, where you need to get the edge rusher or else it's a failure. The team went 15-2 last year. And I am not going to sit here and say that last year was a success. It wasn't. You lost in the 1st round of the playoffs. I don't call that a success. You did win a division title, but you didn't do anything in the playoffs. Again, it's similar to the Pistons. Maybe the secret sauce to this defense, to that edge rushing problem, was already on the team. And his name is Aiden Hutchinson. Maybe that's the case. But all we're going to have to do is have the games play out. And if a team that just went 15-2 with massive injuries to the defense is going to be coming back healthier and potentially younger on the defensive line, that sounds pretty good to me. That sounds like a pretty decent recipe for success. Obviously, you got new coordinators, so who knows what's going to happen there. But this edge rusher obsession thing, to me, I'm with Brad Holmes. I don't understand it. It's one position in a field of positions that you already have an elite one, and the ones that you want in the pro level are not there. So now we're dealing with lottery tickets and drafting players. And if the guy who has successfully drafted pretty much since he's gotten here, not pretty much, since he's gotten here, doesn't see one that he likes, what do you want me to say? Want me to say that I know better? Because I probably don't. Do you want me to say that I wanted this guy over this guy? I have no idea. I don't watch these guys. I don't interview with these guys. I don't know. Other teams are going to draft well too. So you're just going to have to accept that there's going to be guys that are drafted before or after that you wish the Lions would have been able to get. They probably feel the same way. That's life. That's the NFL. Okay? If it were up to me, and I know it's not up to me, then the Lions would have gotten Trayvon Walker, Aiden Hutchinson, and Kayvon Thibodeau back then. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. That's not real life. If it were up to me, Myles Garrett and Max Crosby and Trey Hendrickson would be our entire defensive line. But again, that's not real life. Real life is you pretty much only get one super duper elite edge rusher, and then you fill the void with what you got, with development, with picking up a guy like Zadarius Smith, who again is still out there. But either way, all of this is to say, I like the draft. I'm not jumping up and down because, again, I don't know these guys. We'll see. We'll see if they end up being good. I like the mindset behind the draft. I like the philosophy. So I'm gonna just let the season come when it does. But yeah, the edge rushing thing, people need to just find something else, I guess. Yeah. Went into the draft saying we need a wide receiver, and I got told we have St. Brown, J-Mo, Tim Patrick, and always had said the same thing. Well, after those three and Khalif, who else do we have? This is true. I did see this. I did see this. So maybe they're trying to entice him by bringing his nephew in. I did see that. But yeah, I mean, like, look, would I have wanted a wide receiver in the first round? No. But Detroit fan, you're absolutely right. I don't think it's a wrong thing in principle to take a wide receiver. I mean, we just drafted 2 of them. And Dominic Lovett, he's a 7th round pick. I don't expect very much from him, but wide receiver out of Georgia, I can live with that. And again, you also got to look at, and you can kind of take this for what it's worth, but I think it's worth something. We drafted by conference: Big Ten, SEC, 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 Mountain West, SEC, SEC. That's a pretty high success rate. You draft SEC guys, they're pretty high success rate. I think also this is one of the first drafts in a while that we didn't draft an Alabama player. I think since the first draft, if I recall. Because in the second draft, you drafted J-Mo. Third draft, you drafted Jameer. Fourth draft, you drafted Terrion. So this is one of the few drafts where we don't draft Alabama. I'm sure, I don't know if we picked up any in free agency, but yeah, I mean, again, like outside of that Boise State guy, you're picking guys from established conferences with elite competition. Again, if you take a player on the defensive side from the Big Ten, you're not going to hear any complaints from me, especially not from a national championship team. Not going to hear any sorts of complaints from moi. That's for darn old sure. Also, the Pistons are up 11-7, and I believe Jalen Duren is going to the free throw line. So, early showings. We got life. That's true. He did play at Hillsdale. Shout out the Chargers. I got a couple of friends of mine that went to Hillsdale. Pretty cool. Yeah. No, I think I kind of like the T-Slaw pick, just because, again, it's like nice to have, a young wide receiver that, again, if they feel high on this guy, like nobody is going to care if T-Slaw is, an all-pro. That, oh my gosh, but we could have drafted Mike Green. Who cares? Who the heck is Mike Green? All right? Like, we're talking about, like, people were losing their mind over an edge rusher who played at Marshall. All right? Maybe he's good. I don't know. All right? But he played for Marshall. We're not talking about, the edge rusher of Ohio State or the edge rusher of Alabama or Texas or any of these super, like, elite teams. We're talking about a team that didn't even that's not even in a Power 5 conference. Again, maybe that's not, as important to some people. I think it's pretty important. I'm like the guy in The Last Dance. Just doing the little shrug. Now, all right, so outside of the Lions, there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about. The first thing I have to talk about, because I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about this, because unfortunately, it has become a story. And that is one Shedeur Sanders. Now, when he didn't go in the first round, I thought it was kind of funny. I thought, haha, here's this guy. He's full of himself. He's, an overrated prospect. And he did this whole thing that was just, ridiculous about, like, he had the room with legendary and how he's going to be so great. Haha, he didn't go in the first round. And then he didn't go in the second round. And then he didn't go in the third round. And then he didn't go in the fourth round. And by this point, I was thinking, oh my gosh, is he going to go at all? And finally, he ends up in the fifth round. And he ends up with the Cleveland Browns, which is now a quarterback room of Deshaun Watson, Dylan Gabriel, and a few other people that I don't remember. It's like to the point where I'm like, okay, they really don't see him that highly. Or they just think, okay, we'll have 1 million quarterbacks, and one of them's got to be good. But the thing that gets me is the reaction of a lot of the media. So I'll start with them, and then we'll get into Shedeur. Mel Kiper, sir, with all due respect, you've been a media personality for a very long time. You've been a draft analyst for a very long time. I don't remember a time when this guy was not a running gag, essentially. He was about ready to, burst a vein in his skull. He was so upset that teams were not taking him. Like, look, was it like, did I expect Jackson Dart to go ahead of him? No, I didn't, but I'm just a guy with a microphone in front of him. This guy, Mel Kiper, was out here comparing Shedeur Sanders to Aaron Rodgers, to Johnny Unitas, to Drew Brees. We're talking about some of the greatest singular football players ever. Comparing them to a guy who had one winning season in Colorado where he got murdered in the bowl game that he played in, never won a conference championship, was never in the running for the Heisman, was never considered a top quarterback in college football at any point other than maybe after week 1. And the only reason, and yes, I will go down this path, the only reason he's even on the team is because the coach didn't birth him. Well, let's go. This is a different theory. The coach is his biological father. That is the only reason. If his last name was Shedeur Smith, would he be the quarterback? He could, but he definitely wouldn't be the quarterback if his competition was named Steve Sanders and his father was the coach. And you're not allowed to say that because apparently Shedeur Sanders is, Aaron Rodgers, I guess. I don't know. And then it gets into some of the more egregious and annoying stuff about, oh my gosh, the NFL is racist. They don't like it when a black man is the quarterback. They don't like it when he doesn't recode his life to being white. Now, you know what annoys me in particular about this? Like, is the implication that to, quote, be black, you have to destroy any teams or destroy teams' interviews that you don't want to go to. You have to just deliberately disrespect those teams and not actually give them a solid interview. You have to be braggadocious and full of yourself and, generally speaking, not take any responsibility and be as unhumble as humanly possible. Is that what I'm to take away is what it means to, quote, be black, according to these people? Because that seems pretty racist to me. I know a lot of black people. None of them are like this. In fact, they're quite pleasant. They can be humble. They can be fun. They can be perfectly amicable people. None of them are like Shedeur Sanders, who seems like none of that. I mean, in college, he threw his offensive line under the bus multiple times. He says in media coverage, he says, do not draft me if you are not willing to change your entire culture around me. Well, all right. Challenge accepted. We will not draft you. Like, it'd be one thing if you were, again, Aaron Rodgers, if you were Cam Newton, if you were one of these draft prospects that at the time, was just seen as so obviously unanimous number 1 overall. That would be one thing. All right. But you're not. You're a mediocre pro prospect at best. And frankly, the fact that you get drafted at any point, let alone, at first round, second round, whatever, that is a success. It is hard to get into the NFL. It is hard to get drafted. And the fact that he was put up as this, he's going to be a first round pick. And if you don't think he's a first round pick, you're a racist. And you just hate black men being quarterback. I got news for you. Okay. Plenty of black quarterbacks are, helming their teams at the position this year. The Super Bowl champion was a black quarterback. There is no aversion by teams to have black quarterbacks. It just doesn't exist. The problem is this black quarterback. So, the whole thing, if there's any learning experience that Shedeur should experience, it is this. Humility is a virtue. Do not take yourself so seriously. Do not put yourself at a level that you are not at. Do not build a set with your name and legendary all over the walls, ready to answer the call for you to be taken in the first round. Don't do that. Don't deliberately botch interviews for teams you don't want to play for. I got news for you. You don't get a whole lot of role in who you play for in the NFL. Not when you're that level, okay? You're going to be a backup to a backup in Cleveland. Now, if you work hard, if you put your head down, if you stop making everything about you, you might be able to get yourself a starting role, and people might start growing in their admiration and their respect for you. Unfortunately, something tells me that's just not going to happen because all this kid has been inundated with by his father and by the media is that he's so great, and if the whole world just would understand him, then he would get everything he ever wanted. But, why should we teach young people about responsibility and about ownership and humility when we can tell them about how awesome they are? That's a much better and much healthier way to live, right? That's worked out very well for us. Pistons haven't made a field goal in 4 minutes. As I say that, they make a shot. Okay. As I say that, they take the lead. Is that Malik Beasley? Yeah, 15-14. Anyway, other storylines of this draft. So I guess we'll just talk about the number 1 overall pick, Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami. He was a Heisman runner-up, I believe. I believe he was one of the nominees for Heisman. I mean, I think he's a good player. I think the thing that I would like about him, I'm going to try to be as positive to Tennessee as possible because that team needs some positivity. So I'm going to be nice. He is a quarterback that grew and developed to the quarterback that he is today. So at the very least, you see a willingness to make adjustments, a willingness to change, a willingness to grow as a player. So that's good. I think that's valuable. Obviously, he's not, he's not what Caleb Williams looked like going into this year. He's not even what Jaden Daniels was last year. But he's a good player. He's a good player. And you weren't going to win anything with Will Levis. So you might as well take a shot on the quarterback. Whether or not Cam Ward is that guy is only time will tell. But I think they made the right move. They could have gone Abdul Carter. They could have gone Travis Hunter. They could have gone Mason Graham even, or Will Campbell, or one of these other, big human beings at 1 overall. But you couldn't put Will Levis out there again if you're Tennessee. You gotta have some. You gotta be able to put something out there for your fans next year. And I think Cam Ward will, at the very least, juice up some, hope that you got something going. They don't have any wide receivers. I mean, I don't know how they drafted the rest, but they got a lot of work to do. And, rookie quarterbacks are usually tough, but I think overall, not a bad move. Cam Moore is one of those rise guys since he went from a 0-star recruit that played an incarnate word, then transferred to Washington State, then to Miami after the Pac-12 died. Yeah. I guess this right here, this is, if you're a Titans fan, this is what you want to hear. A guy who was a nobody, who worked, head down, basically the opposite of Shedeur Sanders. Like a guy who was not a highly touted recruit, not, some superstar out of the gate. He took his time, he developed, he got better, and finally worked his way to being the number 1 overall pick. So either way, I mean, congrats to him, the man. But as far as the team goes, this is a guy that's going to work hard for you. And I think they probably saw that, and that's why they end up going with Cam Ward. Because as much as it was fairly obvious, I think they were going to go with Cam Ward, he's at least got something of an upside, at least in terms of his work ethic. So, the other one I got to talk about. All right, look, Giants, things are going so well. They had Abdul Carter, easily the best edge rusher coming out of the draft, out of Penn State. Very good player, very elite talent. Add him with, Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau. You got a really nice defensive line there. And then they trade into the first round. I'm like, okay, what are they cooking? I thought for sure this was going to be Shedeur Sanders. However, they went a different route. They go ahead and draft Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart. All right, I'm not gonna sugarcoat this. The only time I watched Jackson Dart, he was not good. Now look, you're in desperate need for a quarterback. You need to make a move. You need to bring in somebody. You need to bring in the future. You already signed Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson, but they're not long-term solutions, obviously. My problem is this. If you're going to draft a young quarterback like a Jackson Dart, why are you trading up to do that? I know they didn't give up too much, and we'll talk about teams that did give up too much. They didn't give up too much, but in my opinion, for a player of Dart's caliber, I don't get it. I don't get it. At least, talk about players that I wasn't super high on first round grades. Last year was J.J. McCarthy for me, and that's not just me being a Michigan State fan, even though I am a Michigan State fan. That's me saying he wasn't a high volume thrower. But at least you could say, okay, he was a winner. He's shown leadership. He won a national championship. All that you could point to stuff like that. Jackson Dart didn't win anything with Ole Miss. Anytime it was a big game, he didn't play all that well. I don't get it. I just don't understand it. So, good job, New York. Good job. New trend in the NFL is having multiple quarterbacks. Apparently. Seems like it. I don't know. I don't really get why, but yeah. Now, the other last point I want to get to, because I'm not going to break down the entire draft, guys. We're already an hour into the show. The Jaguars trade up a couple of spots, 3 spots to be exact, to get Travis Hunter. Now, I'm not going to yell at you for getting Travis Hunter. This guy is a superstar receiver. He is excellent. He is so much fun to watch. He's probably the only fun thing about Colorado the last couple of years was this guy, because he's unbelievable. I mean, plays both sides of the ball. Unbelievable athlete and unbelievable personality. Seems like just a party, essentially. Like a guy you'd want to hang out with, honestly. Even though I think he's got a weird looking face. I don't know, the shape of his face is just kind of weird. But either way, I don't want to hang out with Travis Hunter. He seems like a really fun cat. But to give him a first round pick next year for a wide receiver when you are not that good, Jacksonville, that I don't like. That I do not like. Because here's the problem. Let's say Travis Hunter is Randy Moss. Okay. Your offense in Jacksonville is going to immediately get a bump. One small problem. Your defense sucked last year. Your defense has sucked for many years. You're not there yet. And I don't even know if Trevor Lawrence is that guy. I lean towards no. So, I don't like the amount they give up. However, I do like the player. So whether or not the assets they gave up are too much is sort of irrelevant in a certain extent because the player is really good. I don't think it's going to help them long term, but short term, he's going to be fun. Welcome to the chat, Underrated Darkness. Interesting name, but all right. Not that overrated darkness. Underrated one. The one that nobody talks about. But yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say about the draft. So, oh yeah, by the way, whoever let the Eagles get Jahad Campbell, I hate you. I hate you. Why would the Chiefs do that? Why would they do that? Just why would you do that, Chiefs? That's not very nice. That's not nice of you to do. Like they literally the Eagles trade up one spot. I'm like, no, don't let them get another elite defense. No. So, again, who knows if Jahad Campbell is going to be any good, but still, I was upset about that. Anyway, that's about that. Oh, and the Raiders drafted Ashton Jeanty, and that is going to be the worst pick. I'll just say that. I like Jeanty. Again, like the player. Don't like where you drafted him. and don't like that you have a terrible offensive line when you had, just from the tackles that went right at you had Calvin Banks right there. You even had Colston Loveland. At least again, you already have your tight end there, so maybe you think, okay, don't need that, but you could have added to your line. You could have added Kenneth Grant. Again, I'm just looking at guys that were, offense or defensive line. You could have Zabel or kind of I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't get it. Anyway. Why is it on that? The heck? Weird. So we'll just end this really quick here, just briefly talking about the NHL playoffs as the Pistons are down 1 after 1. Currently, the New Jersey Devils are up 3-0 over the Carolina Hurricanes. There's no score between the Senators and the Maple Leafs entering the second period with the Sens on a power play. I only had brief points here, but the Blues tie up the series with Winnipeg. President's Trophy curse might be showing its ugly head there. The Stars go up 3-2 in the Mikko Rantanen Bowl. So that's good for Dallas. I really hope they win this series. I think if they win this series, they have a decent path there to get to the Western Conference Finals. The team that really needs to start winning, at least getting into the Cup, because they haven't done that since 2020, since they lost to the Lightning. But yeah, definitely, they're in the position. They're in the driver's seat. Minnesota and Vegas tied up at 2-2. Kind of an interesting series, but again, look at the start times for these games. I mean, tomorrow or tonight, 9:30. I guess I could watch a little bit of that. But the other two games, TBD. Who knows what's gonna happen there? Then let's see. We got Edmonton and LA. Come on, LA, man. What are you doing? Stop. How can you let this team keep baiting you? All right, like it's 2-2. You're up 2-1. And I believe you had the lead in game 3, and they blow that. They lose 7-4. Like, what the heck happened? First of all, just like the goal scoring in this series has been pretty crazy. Like the Kings in the first 2 games scored 2 goals, 6 goals in both those games. Then they lose in overtime in game 4 on Sunday to have that series tied up. Game 5 is tonight at 10 o'clock. Like, come on, man. Come on. I'm not necessarily rooting for LA, but at this point, it's like you can't lose to the same team 3 years in a row. I think it'd be 3, maybe even 4. I think it's 3, but I don't remember. We already mentioned the Ottawa Leafs. It's 3-1. Leafs have a chance to ice this or to win the series at home tonight, but it's no score. They're out shooting them by 3, like 3 times as many shots, I should say. But still no lead. There's still no score there. The Panthers, I don't know if you guys caught this game last night. Crazy game. Like, it was all tied up, I think. Or maybe it was 2-1 for like the final couple of minutes here, or final couple of minutes in the third period. I'm like, okay, maybe the Lightning gonna make things interesting, make it 2-2. And then the Panthers and the floodgates just open. I don't know what happened. Like, they just all of a sudden they're like, oh, you gotta get the puck into the net. And they win 4-2. Take a 3-1 series lead. They got a chance to advance on and win the Battle of Florida tomorrow night. So that could be a game to watch. Those two Florida franchises. It's kind of funny that these Florida franchises are really good at hockey. It's like you can't have ice outside, but you're living in Florida. You got some really good hockey teams to follow. That's for sure. A lot better than if you live here. I don't know if you guys saw that Steve Eisman press conference. Oh boy, we are screwed. We are absolutely cooked. Let's talk about then the Habs and the Habnots. This one is going about as well as I expected. The Canadiens, they're a fun young team. It's a good story. They got into the playoffs, but they're just severely outmatched. The Capitals were one of the best teams in the East this year. I believe they were the best. Yeah, they were the best team in the East this year. And they got a chance to win that series tomorrow night. They're up 3-1. I mean, they've just like 5 goals, 3 goals. Like, the one Canadians win, they scored 6 goals. Montreal did, but yeah, it doesn't look good for Montreal. But still, good story for the Canadiens. And then we already did mention the Canes Devils. The Canes have a chance to win this series, but the Devils are not going down without a fight, man. Up 3-0. They won in double overtime in game 3, keep themselves going. So, this Devils team can be a little feisty, but for the Hurricanes, it's like you're in do or die mode, man. Like, do something, or I don't care about you. Just win something, or go away, kind of thing. But yeah, there you go. There's your Stanley Cup update. There's your playoff update. Pistons down 1. I believe that's Schroeder with the ball. Passing it around. There's Holland. Holland nearly lost it, but he was fouled. Okay, never mind. All right. So that's pretty much the show. So I'm going to get going here. Got to cut out some of those clips, and we'll edit those, put those out. Washington lose. McClellan, first win as a head coach. Was Detroit beating the crap out of the Cavs? That's true, but that was probably the new coach bump, That I would be interested to see the Canadiens just totally, jump out and make it an interesting series, but I don't think it's going to happen. What the heck happened? What did Paul Reed just get pushed out of bounds? I'm assuming that's a turnover. Yeah, okay. What the? That was crazy. Okay. Oh, fascinating. But anyway, that's where we're going to wrap up the show. If you did enjoy, please hit the like. Please hit the subscribe. We'll be back again. So probably won't be able if the Pistons goes to 7 games. We'll see. Keep an eye out, but don't hold your breath. That I'll be live for that. Don't hold your breath. I'll just say that. We'll leave it at that. But if they do, maybe. We'll see. Either way, we'll be back Tuesday. We'll break it down, one way or the other. I guess we'll see if the Pistons season is over or not. MSU football, that doesn't start for several months. So I'm not doing any. There's not a whole lot of news that I want to talk about. It's just like transfer portal stuff. I had no comment on it. We'll talk about the team as it gets closer, but Tigers up 1-0. That's nice. Either way, we'll be back next Tuesday to break down all the sporting news of the week. Do appreciate you guys for listening in and hanging out. I'll see you guys next week. Have a good night, everybody, and take care. See ya.